Good afternoon, it's Neil Getz here from the group at Whitehill or Tillyforney Recumbent Stone Circle. Lovely April afternoon. It's got a wee bit warmer, about 10 degrees, 11 degrees, and lovely blue sky. This circle I meant to mention at Ballygorky. This circle is 20 metres in diameter, and it's south-south-west facing. Not quite south, just a little bit to the west. The documentation for this circle suggests, just like it is just now, there's a fairly intensive and heavy tree plantation. And the documentation that talks about this circle over the last sort of 150 years explains that a lot of the surveys were hampered severely by the intensive tree plantation round about the circle and the tree felling that took place round about it, which may explain this number of stones that have fallen. There's 13 stones altogether, and we'll go round them all, but essentially what's still standing is one stone at the back, stone 10, and stone 1, the flanker and the recumbent. All the rest are fallen. What's really interesting about this circle, however, is the central cairn is still very evident. The central court and the cairn itself, the stones that went to build the cairn, are still very evident here. And I suspect that's because the surrounding area of the circle, there's not many requirements for stone dikes. So I suspect the cairn wasn't robbed from its structure because of that, but that's only my speculation. So let's have a wee walk around. So stone 1 flanker, east flanker, a little bit. I mean, it's kind of well dressed, not a right angle. Well, maybe it is a bit of a right angle here, but very triangular in shape. I think it's probably, let me just stand beside it, it's probably a good 2.2 metres maybe high. Very square block, and again tapered at the back. Looks like there's been a bit of a chunk kind of taken out here, maybe some damage. But a good sized stone. The recumbent, good flat face. Actually got a bit of a right angle on the top, although it looks like it's coming up pointed. I personally think, given the kind of shape you can see from the end here, which is relatively square, I wondered if the stone had maybe fallen back slightly and was originally flat faced, square to the ground, flat topped. It would mean it would be slightly out of line from its flanker, but I suspect it's a little bit out of line of its flanker now. So I'm wondering if that recumbent has maybe just tipped back slightly. East flanker, number 3 stone, completely on its back, and has been since any documentation can kind of tell. If you look up at any kind of sketches, you can see the flanker recumbent and the number 2 flanker, number 3 stone like this. So we'll just walk ourselves round. I mean, it's a pretty substantial flanker, a bit of a slab, where maybe number 1 is a bit pointed. This could be a bit more square, hard to tell because of the position it's in. So number 4 stone, fallen, but quite a substantial stone. Slightly a bit like the flanker, first flanker, a bit triangular. But you never know, if the theory is that these stones had been toppled over by tree felling, there's also a fairly good chance it's had some damage. Quite a tall stone, or long stone. It would have been tall standing up. And again, if we kind of accept the kind of a quarter or a third of the stone would have been embedded in its socket, then it would have been reasonably tall, maybe kind of head height for me. So that's number 4. Number 5, according to the sketches, would be this one here. again fallen, a bit of a slab, relatively shallow, maybe just a little bit wider than a handspan deep, but a bit of a slab of a stone, again getting a little bit shorter as it's coming round the circle if this was upended in its socket. There is a stone here right enough, just right next to number 5, but hard to tell if that was being part of the circle or not. So that's number 5. Number 6, again, quite a squarish, although there looks like there's been a bit of damage here with this section being taken away. Squarish, long stone. Take it from the end. Again, toppled over, but again, if it was maybe in its socket, it might be starting to get a little bit on the smaller side. Number 6, number 7, certainly getting smaller now. Falling into the circle from here. It's a red, lovely red granite. Clamber over this to number 8. And number 8, a kind of long stone. Well, saying that, long, I mean if you were to take a good quarter or a third of that, put it in its socket, it would be relatively short, because now we're starting to get to the kind of far end of the recumbent circle, so we're likely to, or we're expecting to see stones being a bit shorter at this end. Number 9, hard to tell what kind of, well, there we are, a stump of a stone. Again, could have been broken, again toppled over, but probably only going to maybe be waist height at the very most. If it was, maybe broken up a little bit. Number 10 gives you a bit of a kind of an idea maybe what the original kind of heights were of this side of the circle. This is up to kind of my chest height here. So relatively slender stone in comparison to, say, Balgorkar stones that were just at just this morning. But signs of a bit square shaped. Again, whether that's natural or shaped, hard to tell, of course. That's number 10. Number 11 has been identified as just in bits. So I think here, here, and here are identified as parts of stone 11, as far as I could tell. But again, tree felling is probably like to have been the damage, the cause of the damage, if that's what the reports suggest. Number 12, getting more slab-like, certainly getting a little bit longer, embedded in the ground with lots of moss and grass, but it's again starting to get a little bit more, well, it's keeping its squareness. So that's number 12. And number 13, it's quite a stone. It's, you know, it's up next to the recumbent, so you'd expect it to be starting to get up to the same kind of height as the recumbent, as the flanker, sorry. You'd expect them to start to get a bit, but that is becoming a bit of a monster of a rock, a bit of a monster of a stone. Again, embedded a quarter to a third, but still it would be a bit of a kind of a noticeable stone. So that's the 13 stones, and it's a lovely location. A relatively, although it's got a car park and it's a forest track all the way up to here, it's a bit of an elevation. So if you were to come up here, just take it easy on the walk up, because it can be, it's uphill pretty much all the way. But on a day like this, it's lovely. So this is the central court, clear central court. Quite a height difference between the base of the central court and the cairn, which we will can evidently see just here. The cairn stones from, if we imagine the central court maybe being bare or having whatever artefacts it has in it. And the cairn wall starting about kind of here where the gorse is, and all the way out to the recumbent, or the circle diameter. You can see there's evidence of the cairn structure all the way, although it's covered with grass and gorse, you can see the evidence of that. So, and round about here at our feet, we'll just go along here to some more look in here. You can clearly see kind of maybe sometimes what we don't often see is inner curbstones. So we see a lot of outer curbstones to stop the cairn stones rolling off into the surrounding area, but internal structure like this one here, you got a thin wall stopping the cairn blocks maybe falling into the central court, is quite interesting, quite unique with the rest of the cairn here. So that was a bit of a walk through. Hopefully you've enjoyed that, and really appreciate you viewing this. There's even some midges coming out, can you believe it? Thanks very much for joining us on this little walkthrough.